Everybody good?
I am.
He is a good Father, ain't he?
Yes, He is.
Yeah. Well, we're going to keep on. Just keep on keeping on until we really do believe that. Look out.
That didn't work.
Because we're just going to keep on keeping on, telling this same thing until we really do believe that He is a good Father. Because religion has taught us a whole bunch of stuff and a whole bunch of mess that we've had ways of thinking about Him that is really wrong. And it's so crucial to how we believe about Him, because the way we believe about Him is really the way our life will go. Everybody, right? Hey, you got me?
Yeah.
Hey, did you mute? Is that loud or what? Mute the monitors, will you, Joe? Over there, far right, mute monitors. Good? All right. Good? Everybody hear me all right?
Yeah.
Not too loud?
No.
Just right.
Just right.
All right. So really what we've been doing all year is redefining really what we think about God, what we know about God, because we've really believed a lot of mess about who He is. And so we really, lately, the last probably 3 weeks, been dissecting and really retraining our minds and thinking about what love really is. Because, we went back, I'll just catch everybody up that's been here. Jesus said, they asked Him what was the greatest commandments, and Jesus said this: love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, strength, and love your neighbor as yourself, right? And everybody think that's so noble, right? Well, really, He's just quoting the law. He's just quoting the law, really. He said this is all the law combined right here, the law. Love. You love is what He was saying. But then later on, before He goes to the cross, He says this: a new commandment I give you. See, He did say you love, but now He's going to say, a new commandment I give to you, that now you love as I've loved you. See the difference?
Yeah.
The first time He said, you love your neighbor as yourself. Love God. You do it. It's like you do it. You do it. And we all know now, we've learned, love is not something you do. You can't do it. He goes on to say, a new commandment I give you, I want you to love your neighbor as I've loved you. In other words, you need to get a revelation and an understanding of how it is that I'm loving you, and in that place you will then have love, and if you have love, you'll be able to give it. If you don't get it from me, you're not going to have it, and if you don't have it, you can't give it. Now we can understand why we've all had such poor performance, right? Why we've all messed it up so many times. Really, it's not because we've done a poor job about it. It's because we've believed wrong about how it is that He loves us.
That's right.
Right? So we got to get a revelation, understand how it is that He loves us. And your performance and your way of loving and treating and acting and behaving and performing is birthed out of how you understand and believe He's loving you. Right? I know I say that over and over, and some of you may be tired of hearing it, but if you've really got it, you don't get tired of hearing it. And if you don't have it yet, I'm going to keep saying it till you do get it.
That's right. Amen.
You're loving with the kind of love that you believe He's loving you with. Everybody got that? You're loving with the kind of love that you believe He's loving you with. When we were religious, we believed that He was loving us based on our performance. We believed He loved us. I'll just say me. I'm not including you. You speak for yourself. I believed He loved me based on my Sunday school attendance and whether I did this right or not did that, or did this and didn't do that, and gave this, and see the way I acted and the way I performed, and I'm blessed and He loves me based on that. Right? So if I believe He's loving me based on my performance, that's the kind of love that I have. And guess now what I'm going to expect out of you. And you're not going to perform it any better than I did. So we're all miserable, and we're all failures, and we all go home guilty and condemned. And then so we come up with this big religious mess to somehow pretend like we got it all together. And we don't. And none of us do.
That's right.
So I say, we got to understand how it is that He loves us, because whether it's right or not, whatever you believe about it is what you have and it's what you're loving with. If there's a problem with the way we love, then it's not something to change as far as what we do. If there's a problem with the way we love, there's a problem with what we believe. Fix what we believe, the way we love automatically changes. Everybody with me? I think it's important because Paul said this, right? Well, I'm getting there. I've been 3 weeks now, I haven't even got through one verse. So I'm purposely taking my time. I'm purposely not rushing through it like I normally do. I'm purposely just hashing it so it soaks into us, all right? I'm going slow on purpose. I don't know how long it'll take me to get through this chapter. I've been 3 weeks and maybe we'll get through that verse tonight, all right? First verse. But I'm just saying, Paul said this in Ephesians 3, that being rooted and grounded in love, that if we could comprehend the width, the breadth, the height, the depth of the love of God, in that we could be filled up with the fullness of God. Understanding the way He loves us, the width, the breadth, the height, the depth, understanding that we could be filled up with the fullness of God. Who would like to be filled up with the fullness of God? Yeah, I'm going to be some of that. But before, I never even knew that was even possible. Filled up with the fullness of God. I'm saying if we could all get filled up with the fullness of God, you wouldn't even need a preacher. Anybody here?
Yeah.
I think it's pretty important to understand it. Understanding that. To me, really, we understand that, everything else falls into place. Everybody good? Because if you understand the way He's loving you and understand who He is and what He's really like, see, that's what's happening. We're redefining what we believe about who He is and what He's really like. Alright? So we went through love. This 1 Corinthians 13. We're going through the love chapter, right? Love is patient. Love is kind. Well, you said 1 John 4, God is love. Right? God is love. So if God is love, and love is patient, and without doing any injustice to the Bible, we can say God is patient.
Right.
If love is patient and God is love, then we can say God is patient, right? We've done a whole week on that. God is patient, right? Then we said love is kind. Well, if love is kind, then God is kind. Who'd ever thunk it? God is kind. He's not mean like we've lied on Him. And He said this. Last week we said, is not jealous. Love is not jealous, right? Well, God is not jealous. The only time that God was jealous when He introduced the law, and being jealous is saying, I desire something that somebody else has, or I have a desire for something that somebody else is getting. They're getting something that I want, or that's what jealous is. And says love is not jealous. Love is not jealous. But then we went back and said that when the introduction of the law came and God's given Moses the 10 Commandments, and then said, I'm a jealous God. Well, how could it say in 1 Corinthians 13 that God is not jealous, love is not jealous, but then over in Exodus and given of the law that He said, I'm a jealous God? Well, what is jealousy? Desiring something that someone else is getting, right? Only until the law was given did God say, I'm a jealous God. Only under the law and the old covenant system did God say that I desire something that someone else is getting. I'm wanting to have the relationship with man, but instead man's having a relationship with sacrifices and rule keeping and all this kind of a mess. Wasn't God's desire. Desires a relationship with man, right? Okay, I'm not going to go over all that. You're trying to get me hung up on it, but that was last week, all right? Now listen to this. Love does not brag and is not arrogant. This is the last of verse 4. Love does not brag and is not arrogant. Some of them say, who's got it? What brand you got there? Message Bible? Oh yeah, what's that say? Never boastful or proud. Who's got another one? Who's got a... What do you got there, NLT? I know what you got.
He is not boastful, proud, or rude.
Boastful, proud, or rude. Some of them say puffed up. Haughty. Yeah, another one says, let's see, this is a B word. What was that B word? Who's got that one? No, B. What is it? vain. Yeah, I said, anyway, he's not a braggart. One of them says he's not a braggart. I'm thinking, what in the world does that even mean? It's because I don't think, it said, one thing it says this in Hebrews 1, I believe, that Jesus, see, we're redefining what we think about God. Redefining what we think about God. It said he's not a braggart. He's not boastful. He's not puffed up. He's not proud. Puffed up like full of hot air. Right? Dang, what's that? It said in Hebrews that Jesus is the exact representation of His nature. Exact representation of His nature. That means Jesus is the exact representation. One place says He's the visible of the invisible. Right? So, all these things that we're redefining what we believe about God, we believed a lot of stuff about God that you cannot find in the life of Jesus. I'm going to say that again. We've believed a lot of stuff about God that you cannot find in the life of Jesus. If we've got belief systems and we've got doctrines and we've got theology and we've got all this stuff built up in our minds about who God is, but you cannot find it in the life of Jesus, it needs to be throughout.
That's right.
I don't care if Granddaddy brought it or who brought it. It needs to be thrown out. If you can't find it in the life of Jesus, well, all this stuff, we've heard all this stuff. Well, God doesn't heal everybody, or it might be, well, does anybody believe? Because we've heard that, right? I don't know if you've been here very long, you're over that. But we've said, religion's taught us, well, God don't heal everybody, it's not always His will, or He's going to use His sick. Show me that in the life of Jesus, and then I'll believe it. You can't find it.
No.
Never did Jesus come up on somebody that wanted to be healed, and He said, well, let's see, if you'll give $19.95 and get your Sunday school attendance up and memorize 3 verses, then maybe you'll get healed. Never. Or did He say, okay, come back in like 3 weeks because I got some stuff to work out and I'm going to put... Come on, we've believed that stuff. But you cannot find it in the life of Jesus.
No,
Jesus is the exact representation of His character and His nature. Uh-oh. We'll have to redefine what we believe, aren't we?
Yeah.
Religion's taught us a bunch of mess, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I said this, God is not boastful or rude or proud or puffed up. I was thinking about that, thinking, you know what, He's really something. I remember the story in there, you guys have heard it about the woman caught in adultery. Remember her? The moment Jesus was sitting around teaching. And so the Pharisees, them religious dudes, they drug this woman in here and they threw her out here in the middle, and they got an idea they're going to trap Jesus, right? Because here's this Jesus is, and He's been teaching grace and love and healing folks and all this, doing all this He's doing. All these people are following Him thinking He's so great and all this. And so we're going to set Him up. We're going to try to trap Jason's version here. I'm paraphrasing the story. So they bring in there and they said, here's a woman caught in the very act of adultery. Now the law says that such should be stoned, right? See, here's what they're going to do. They're thinking, all right, we got it. He's either going to have to not go along and disagree with the law, which is a bad deal, or he's going to have to stone her in front of all these people that think He's all about grace and mercy, right? So we got Him. We got Him trapped. He's either going to have to defy the law, or He's going to have to kill this woman in front of all these folks here think He's just this love preacher, right? All this goody two-shoes stuff and all this. We got Him, right? So they throw her in there and they said, the law says she should be stoned. What do you say? And He ignored them. And He bent down on the ground and He wrote on the ground with His finger, it says. And so I always wondered, I thought, I'd like to know what He wrote, wouldn't you? It don't say what He wrote, but I got an idea, my own idea. And I said, because I've been to that spot there where He's writing on the ground, and we think it's old dirt and whatever else, but really it's stone. Stone. It's rock. Everything there's rock. But where he's at there, it's these big old stones. And so I'm thinking, these guys are coming to him, trying to get him to defy the law. And here Jesus, the Son of God, bends down on the ground with his finger and writes on stone. And what's that a picture of? Remember the handwriting of God? God's handwriting writes the Ten Commandments on tablets of stone, as if Jesus is saying, you're coming to me, trying to trap me with the law, and here I wrote the law. You going to try to fool me up with it? No, and he's writing. Now I got in mind that once, maybe he's writing certain ones that apply to them. And so then for long he says, they say it again, you know, and he's ignoring, and he says this, okay, you without sin, cast the first stone. Now they think they're high and mighty and puffed up and arrogant, right? Well, that's why I say he probably wrote some of the laws there on stone that applied to those guys that were standing there, because he said, you without sin cast the first stone. And it says they one by one wandered off, got out, right? And then until there was none left. Till there was none left. And then he says, woman, where's your accusers? They're all gone. He says this, neither do I condemn you. Neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more. Now I'm thinking, I can hear you saying, what's that got to do with being a bragger or puffed up or anything else? I said that, you know what? He said, you without sin cast the first stone. Do you know that there was one present that was without sin?
Right.
Yep.
Him. He could have said, I'm the one without sin, so I can cast. He said this, cast the first stone. If he would have just cast the first stone, then they could have joined in. I thought, man, ain't he something? Here he is. He don't even bring it up or talk about it. Love does not brag. Love is not arrogant and puffed up. He didn't even mention the fact that he was without sin. What'd he do? Run her accusers off and then gave her the gift of no condemnation. Ain't he something? He knows, because here's what he knows. The gift of no condemnation is where the power to go and sin no more is found.
Amen.
Religion has said, go and sin no more, and then we won't condemn you. We've believed that mess. Jesus said this, realize that I'm no longer condemning you, and there you'll find the power to go and sin no more.
Amen.
Ain't he something? Doesn't brag. Doesn't brag. His love does not brag and is not arrogant. Man, I'm glad he ain't arrogant. Even though he has every right. But I used to say this. They'd say, oh, so-and-so, he's arrogant. And I said, I don't know if he's arrogant or not. It don't seem to me like he'd be arrogant if he could back it up.
That's right.
But he ain't arrogant. And he could be. Right? Alright, I'm just hashing it out. Listen to this. Does not act unbecomingly. I think that's the same as rude. He's not rude. Here's all I'm going to say about this. God's not rude. The Holy Spirit's not rude. That means he's not going to interrupt himself.
That's right.
That's all I'm going to say about that. Because I won't get to this. Does not seek its own. I made it through one verse, alright? Just so you know. Does not seek its own. I don't know if you're ready for this or not. Are you?
Yes.
Does not seek its own. Love does not seek its own. Now we're going to have to really change the way we think about God to get this one, alright? Love does not seek its own. Love is not about its own agenda. Uh-oh. See, we think and we believe that God's got this big old masterful plan and we're just a bunch of pawns and you don't really have any say in it or not. Well, whatever His will is. He's going to do this and He's going to do that. I'm not saying He doesn't have a plan. Don't hear me saying something that I'm not saying. I'm just saying that He's more about you than He is about Him, right? Remember the coffee? I'll tell the coffee again just because not everybody's heard of coffee and I like telling it. It's life-changing. But you know, Pastor Dean, how much he loves coffee, he told this story. This is his story. And so he loved coffee and he was somewhere shopping with his wife or something. I don't remember all the details. But anyway, you'll get the gist of it. He was wanting some coffee real bad, right? And so the only place to get coffee is some foo-foo coffee, right? It's way too much price, right? Expensive coffee, not this dollar truck stop coffee. This is like expensive coffee. So he was really wanting some coffee, you know. And so he paid for the coffee. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm paying this much for coffee. I don't know, it's like $8 or something like that. But a lot of money for coffee, right? But he was really wanting the coffee, and he's like, golly, and he laid down the money and got his coffee and went out on the thing there, was drinking, enjoying his coffee. I'd probably say he was savoring every sip of it since it cost that much, you know. And so then he heard the Lord say to him, you really wanted that coffee, didn't you? Well, yeah. I said, you paid the price for that coffee, even though it might have been too high. You still paid the price. You laid your money down on the counter and exchanged the money for the coffee. You must have thought that the coffee had more value than the money, or else you wouldn't have traded. You follow me?
Yeah.
You thought the price and the payment that you made was not as valuable as what you were purchasing, or else you would have not made the deal. You would have stuck your money back in your pocket, went on somewhere else. But since the coffee had more value to you than the $8, you went ahead and made the exchange, right? In the same way, the price that was paid for us. God said, I laid down the price to buy you out of hock because you were... He paid the price for us.
Yes.
Was it too high? Probably. But what he was purchasing must have been more valuable to him than the money and the price that he paid for. Well, what was the price? What was the price that he paid for you and me? His son, his own life, really, in essence, himself. God laid himself down on the counter to purchase me and you. In other words, he's saying, I place more value on what I'm purchasing than I do the price that I'm paying, or I would not have made the exchange. God places more value on you and me than he does his own self. I'm telling you that. I know that's too big for our heads to conceive, but I'm telling you, it's what love is. Love values you more than it values its own self. It does not seek its own. Because you're more valuable to him than he is to himself. I know. Blows my mind too. But then God himself, this is God I'm talking about. God himself said, you're more valuable to me than I am to myself. Now, this is God's opinion, right? God's opinion says that you're more valuable than I am. You know, God's opinion is that you're more valuable than he is. I wish y'all could see the way you're looking at me right now. To God, you're more valuable to him than he is. And we still think that he's about seeking his own agendas. When God's agenda is this: I want to love you to the level that you can reach your wildest dreams come true, that you can reach your full destiny, and that you can be filled up with the fullness of who I am, so that you can rule this love and take it up, rule this world and take it over with the power of love. But in order for it to work that way, you have to believe it that way so that you can receive it that way and have it that way in order to give it that way. Is that simple enough? Because however you believe in it is how you're receiving it.